Hello! So this morning, well it's morning here, I'm going to show you how I freehand shape and profile my reeds. And the first thing we do is soak the cane. I mean, obviously we've already gouged it, and I soak it for as little time as possible, but when you're learning to do this, I recommend soaking it overnight so that it's really malleable and soft. Yeah, ideally, I like to do the whole process in one go, so it's better if the cane isn't saturated. So there are a lot of ways to start, so I'm just going to show you my way, which I came to after trying other ways, and I'm going to go get my glasses. I'll be right back. Okay, ready to go. So I mark on the gouged side, the inside of the cane, I mark my collar points and the midpoint of the reed. So my collars are at 30. Is that right? Yeah. And the midpoint will be somewhere at around 60. I think my cane is slightly longer than 120. Yeah. And then I mark straight across. Can you see? And these will be my guide points for doing the shaping. I've had students develop other ways, such as really sketching the reed out, and that's a great way to start. Or you can do a template using masking tape. I did that, something similar in the beginning, but I found that my sketches were quite inaccurate, whereas with the tools we can eventually arrive at a very good shape. When you're deciding what shape to do, by all means examine your own reeds. Take a look at them. I think really feeling the shape, as well as measuring it, of course, is helpful. Observing it from every angle, and that's something you can do at any time. And then take the reed apart, and then you can feel the profile with your fingers. I mean, the finished profile is so refined in its curves, but you'll become very good at sensing that. And you can also perceive how much smaller the reed becomes once it's formed. So these are preliminary steps that you can take to prepare yourself. When I start, I always do the same side first. So I just realized I have to, hang on, I'm going to pause for a sec. I have to move the camera. Okay, I'm back. So really, this is a beautiful historic table made of ancient timbers by my father a long time ago. The edge is beveled, but it's not, in this case I probably won't use it. I'll use the side. It's finished, but it's sanded, but it's not high and glossy. So if you put the cane against it, it's not going to slip. And I take the first strokes, I always imagine an angle to the collar point, and just take tiny strokes at first, even smaller than what I just did, and then straight back on the tube. And interestingly, the tube always curves up, so you can correct that. So the cuts, I don't know if you can see, should be very feathered. Hang on, I'm going to switch the hand. There, I just like to have the hands on the same side, so it's as if you're, well, if you're right-handed, you'll be following the same process as me. So I've done the right side. In effect, I will always be doing the right side, and you'll see what I mean shortly. But so now I switch it end for end. I don't try to finish the whole thing in one go, even though I'm imagining my shape. And I've done many. I've done about 1,000 of these since 2011. And I'm only generally making them for myself. So take very slim cuts, then straight back on the tube area. Just do a little bit. We sneak up on it. Now, we do the other side of the blade. I'm starting just a little bit north of the center mark, imagining the curve, taking very slim cuts. Try to get my jeans behind that. Now you can see. This is called the rough shape, and you will shape until it's a bit, it can be a little bit or a lot wider than your final shape, just it really doesn't matter. And I think you should take slimmer cuts than that, but that's the idea. That's an angle from the tip to the collar and then straight back. So it's very controlled, especially when you're aiming towards your thumb. Take your time. If the knife stalls or gets lodged somehow, you stop and take it right out and take a smaller cut. Always use, especially in the beginning, use a new and sharp blade. As you become more experienced, you can sharpen the blades, or you can, with care, you can make the blades go pretty far. But in the beginning, you want to have the absolute control of a very sharp blade. And the only blade that you can control is a sharp one. A dull one, you'll end up pushing on and losing control. So I just go between all four quadrants, taking a small amount off. And at some point I'll start examining the shape, but right now I'm familiar enough with it that I just keep going, taking a small bit. When you're first doing this, just do it carefully, run your fingers. And if you close your eyes, you can really feel which side is wider. In this case, this whole side is wider. Doesn't matter, just poking around, sneaking up on it. It also, you should measure your own shape to know what you're aiming for. I always check how wide the butt is on my reeds, and it's between a millimeter, but it's usually just microscopically under 1 millimeter at this point. I'm not going to measure it yet. I'll do that in the fine finishing shape part. You can measure if you're feeling doubt. Definitely don't go too narrow at this point. You can always take cane off. Simply cannot put it back on. So it's very important to have a secure, non-polished surface. And those are not always easy to find in this world, unless you've got someone who can build a table for you, or if you've got a natural wooden table. If you are touring and in hotels, you can do this if you're really cautious, or you can maybe clamp like a face cloth to the edge. Just anything that will keep it from being slippery. And you can see that it's not perfectly symmetrical at this point, but it's kind of the right shape for me. And then you can fuss with it, but this is the most forgiving stage of the process. And when you get used to this, it's actually an extremely quick process. Good. It's kind of bright here. It's always bright. Don't know why. I'm also working right beside a window, so natural light is the best. If you're using a focused and directed light, it should go across the reed, not straight on it. You want to see reflections of the topography. All right, that's it for now. I'll be back in a minute to do the rough profile.